want to be the man, you gotta beat the man.
Shadows sleeping in the dead of night. I light the match, they fear my fight. Street I flicker like a war zone flare. They see me rise, they won't dare. Some man cracks under my stride. Whispers chase me, they collide. Gun rings heavy like gold chains. Every sorrow that screams my name. Be legendary, feel the fire in your chest. No second guessing, this is your test.
That's right. Welcome to a Friday edition. As we record this, we'll get it posted up this weekend to the Hoosier Legends Conference Weekly. This is a show that goes over all things Hoosier Legends Conference. And as we wind down this winter season, and believe it or not, I know there's been some nice warmth here recently. Last couple of days, the afternoons have gotten nice today. I think it made it up to 62. I think they're calling for some accumulating snow on Sunday. So winter's kind of holding on here a little bit, but I know as a springtime coach, we are starting to ramp up and look at what is around the corner here. And so before we get into looking at our show topic for tonight, I want to bring in our co-host, Mr. Mike Walden. Mike, how are you on this fine Friday night?
Hey, doing awesome. Speaking of good weather, my youngest son got to go out and play some golf yesterday, so it's getting there. You know, he played well, you know, for the first time out in a long time. So, you know, it's that little hope that Indiana weather is changing, and we'll get some nice weather out there and get on the golf course again.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I had one of my players at the high school come up to me today and say that he went out for the first time in a while and was striking the ball really well. And I looked at him and I said, that's because you weren't up in your head yet. You were getting back into instinct a little bit. And I know that's, you know, a paralysis by analysis sometimes in a game of golf where you just start trying to tinker with everything. And before you know it, you're in your head. So, no, yeah, it's awesome. I drove by 3 different golf courses today after school and they were packed. You know, there was definitely people out there taking advantage of it. So, yeah, before we know it, we'll hear the crack of the bats and the track guns going off and, you know, birdies being made on the golf course and all that. So, yeah, but again, like we said, before we get into that, we just want to kind of start to wind down what is the last of our winter sports that's still kind of up and going here, and that is boys basketball. And we've had our sectional draw and we've got our sectional setups here, matchups coming up. So what we thought we would do for this episode is kind of walk you through each of the HLC programs and who they draw, kind of take a look at records for each program, how the teams are playing as they head into their conference match or their sectional matchups, and just kind of go from there. And Mike, before we do that, we do want to give a special shout out to one of our very own out at Tri-West, because there is state swimming for boys going on tonight and tomorrow. And we had a young man who qualified for state, but unfortunately is not going to be competing tonight due to sickness, which I can't even imagine. You know, I feel so awful for him. Rush Curry, fantastic swimmer, great kid, works hard, you know, in and out of the pool, qualified for state. And so he, unfortunately, we got a notification today. They were going to take a fan bus down for the swim team. And I know some kids at the school were going to go down and cheer him on, but we got a notification that he was out sick today. So, you know, it must be pretty bad if you're staying home from your state meet. So we wish him a speedy recovery and hope he feels better, and a little bit of a bummer, but I believe he's a junior. Does that sound right? I believe he's a junior, so he'll have another season to go out and perform and hopefully be able to get back there next year. So. All right, let's dive into, no pun intended, this basketball sectional matchup. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take you through each of the 6 teams in the Hoosier Legends Conference and give you, again, a little bit of an overview of what sectionals look like for them, and ultimately, maybe some predictions here, and again, how teams are playing. So I'm going to kick us off here with the Triton Central Tigers. So Triton Central currently sits at 18-3 on the season. We have talked about these guys overall throughout the course of the season, playing fantastic basketball. 3 losses this season to Shelbyville, Greenwood, and Covenant Christian. And again, Coach James, we've talked him up, almost 649 wins right now as we speak. And if they come away victorious against Speedway tonight, we'll push him to 650 overall. So again, a lot of talent there. Eli Sego kind of leading the charge there. He's gotten a lot of press in the local media out in Shelby County, and even in the Star too, the Indianapolis Star. He's been picking up some press there as well. And again, they are just playing fantastic basketball right now, averaging 56 points a game and only giving up 39. So, pretty good win margin there for them in their victories. Schedule, is a little sketchy, just to be completely honest with you. A lot of 1A teams, right? And, that's not really their fault, per se. Shelby County, a lot of that population is consolidated into Shelbyville. It's a 3A school. And then, Triton's a 2A school. And then you've got a bunch of other 1A schools around them. They did take care of business against Tri-West as a 3A school, and Beech Grove as a 3A school. Greensburg, they beat down pretty good. Those are some of their 3A wins that they had. So again, playing really well. Now their opening sectional opponent is going to be Eastern Hancock, and so they come in at 12-9. They are, from what I'm looking at, the 3rd best record in their conference. So Triton Central will tip off on Wednesday against Eastern Hancock. If they win, they'll play the winner of Heritage Christian and Crystal House. And then the only other team in the sectional here that has a winning record is Cecina, who gets the bye. They're in at 17-6 on the season. And so again, when you take a look at, giving Triton Central, the nod in this one, I think you would probably feel pretty confident in saying that overall. Again, that's why they say you play the games, of course. But, when you look at the way that this sectional is laid out, I think this is one where you say it's theirs for the taking. Of course, Cecina, if it gets to that championship game there, could give them a pretty good run. But I like, I like the Tigers' chances here of being able to take this sectional title. Mike, you have anything that you want to add in on that?
Yeah. So Triton Central did beat Cecina early in the year by, it looks like, 4 points, I think. So I think that's going to be a really good matchup between the two of them. And you kind of hit on the strength of schedule. Triton Central, has 149th in the state strength of schedule, so pretty low there. Whereas Cecina has 70, the 79th strongest. So take that for what that is. Cecina is, according to John Harrell, ranked to win the sectional, but I think Triton Central and their defense is going to be the one that we're going to have to look out for. But don't be surprised if Heritage Christian puts up a good fight too. So, I think those are going to be my 3. I'm hoping, obviously, for Triton Central to get the win. It's all going to be about Cecina, though. See how well they're playing. But I will tell you, another team that we need to look out for is that Tri-West Bruins team. They're coming in based to sectionals with a 13-9 record. They're playing Ritter tonight, so we'll see how they end up doing there. Maybe they're 14-9 after that game. Ritter did beat who did they beat in, with the last second shot? Did you see that by chance?
I vaguely remember seeing it come through, but I can't recall off the top of my head. Let me pull up. Let's see.
I thought it was Guerin, but it was not. Oh, it was Ron
Heritage.
Colley.
Oh, Ron Colley. Okay, yeah. Okay.
I think they were tied, and Ritter came up with a half-court shot with no time left to win the game. So they're going to be a pretty tough competition for Tri-West tonight, so we'll see who wins. In their sectional, Tri-West did, I would say, unfortunately, draw Brebeuf.
Mhm.
That's going to be a really tough game right out the bat. They just played on Tuesday, and Brebeuf absolutely laid the wood on them.
Yeah.
Tri-West lost 46-85.
Mhm.
Now, you know how gamesmanship happens with coaches and what they're willing to show a team and not willing to show a team. But from my understanding, I know you watched it, you were there. I feel like Brebeuf started off the game like 8 for 8 for 3-pointers or something like that.
Yeah, hot as a yeah, I mean, just couldn't miss. And you kind of start to get in those. I've coached in those kinds of games before too. You get down to this time of the year, and you're absolutely right. You're kind of gauging a little bit. You're probably kind of timid, reserved. You don't want to show everyone, especially knowing that draw going into that game. Yeah, absolutely. You're kind of already there. And then when the game kind of starts off that way, you're absolutely right. It's one of those where you're just kind of like, all right, let's just take this one, file it away, burn the tape, whatever, not figuratively, but you could probably learn a little something from it. But really, what you're doing is you're just saying like, all right, everything's pinned down on that Tuesday night game there. And that I'll tell you what, though, that Brebeuf team is no joke. I think a lot of people that I've heard talk about this sectional throughout the year has really kind of just pinpointed in on Guerin. But even Crawfordsville comes in at 13-8, and Coach Pierce out there has had a good program for a number of years. Now, again, they're probably not the strength of schedule that you're going to see from, again, the likes of Guerin or Brebeuf or even Tri-West for that matter. But yeah, I mean, it's going to take the Bruins kind of rallying around and saying, look, we just got to have a sense of determination that we want to keep playing basketball. Right. And that's what you always battle, I think, Mike, at this time of the year is how gelled is your team into buying into we are the team that can make this run and believing in it and not just superficially, because I coached a lot on a lot of staffs where we had awful regular season records. But I'll never forget. I don't know if you remember the name Andrew Smith, Mike, that went to Butler, played at
I was
Covenant
gonna say
Christian.
he's the one that ended up passing away, correct?
Yeah, yep.
Yep.
He's the Project 44. So he was a Covenant Christian grad, and they were in our sectional. And I'll never forget, we played them opening round out at South Putnam one year, his senior year. And they had a really, really strong year that year. I think they only lost like 5 or 6 games, and they beat us by 3 points. And I think we had 4 or 5 wins going into that game. We had tried to game plan to slow him down, and our kids just came out like, we don't care. We're playing loose and free. We hadn't played that well all season. And so sometimes you could get that kind of thing happen. And if you just come in like, hey, we're going to pour everything into this because we want to play as long as we can, then I think, yeah, anything can happen. But, when you look at that result from the other night, you wonder how much psychologically, regardless of whether as the coaching staff, you look at it and you go, yeah, we just kind of said, let's get through this. But do the players take it that way, right? Did the players walk away going, we don't have a chance against these guys? Like, even if we come out and play 10 times better and they play 10 times worse, is that going to make up the gap here, right? So that's your duty as a coach, as a coaching staff, is to get your players to buy in and believe. And I know that our coaches have that capability to do that. It's just going to be really interesting to see which team shows up Tuesday night.
Yeah, absolutely. Brebeuf is ranked 17th in the state. Guerin's 23rd. Tri-West is 59th. Strength of schedule is kind of the same way with Brebeuf 28, Guerin 29, and Tri-West 111. So, John Harrell has Tri-West third there. Tri-West had Guerin Catholic beat in the third quarter. I think they were up like 13 or 15, and then all of a sudden it went into overtime, and Guerin won. So Tri-West could definitely be there. I would say if Tri-West ends up winning this game, it will be the biggest win for Tri-West coach, Strine in his career. It's going to be the one where I think he'll look back and say, this was my best coaching job, because we came in here as underdogs. We got beat by 30. It's going to take everything that these kids have to win. I got to bring my A game here,
Mm-hmm.
and this might be that foundational set game of saying, hey, Tri-West Bruins have a basketball team and they have a coach for the future, and it's going to be Coach Strine,
Mm-hmm.
and if they lose,
Yep.
it's if they lose, it's probably expected to lose. So it'll be a really fun case study later on to see if this turned things around for Coach Strine and the Tri-West Bruins, or if it's everything's just going to stay the same and have pretty good teams, but still needed that one victory really to propel them on to trying to be conference or sectional champs.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. I agree. All right, moving on to our third HLC team. We go over to the west side with the Speedway Spark Plugs. And this sectional, 27, is a really intriguing one when you look at it. Speedway will play Tuesday night against Indianapolis, Washington. Both of these programs are 500-ish. Washington comes in at 12-11, while Speedway comes in at 11-9. First-year head coach there at Speedway, Robert Wanell. We know that they've got Drew Metelic, the 6'7" kid who can play inside and out. Really silky smooth game, nice shot, can be almost unguardable at times and can really dominate. I know we've talked about him on numerous occasions. When you look at the overall, record of Speedway, it is almost, 500, right? I mean, it looks like when you go up and down the schedule, win a couple, lose a couple, win a couple, lose a couple. They've had a 3-game winning streak in the middle of the season, but beyond that, it's just been kind of alternating wins and losses. So not really able to get much traction going, kind of like a 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Now, when you look at their last 4 games, win against Bethesda, win against Indian Creek, a loss to Tri-West where they let things slip away late in the third quarter and fourth quarter. But then they go and they beat a really good Crawfordsville team who I just spoke highly of by 6 points the other night. Now, they end with Triton Central tonight on the road. That's going to be a really good game to help prepare them, right, for this tough sectional play that they're going to go into. So we'll kind of see what the result is of that. And that might be a game where if you lose it by less than, call it 7 points or so, maybe you feel good about that. As much as you can feel good about a loss, you can at least look at your kids in the locker room and say, if we can hang with this Triton Central team, there's, a chance that we can go in and hang with these teams in our sectional. So if they are able to get by Washington, what awaits them is Northview, which is the cream of the crop, really, of this sectional at 19-5. And we know Northview out of the Vigo County area has a lot of talent. Their sports teams, typically are pretty strong in that region down there. So that's going to be a tough task for them to get through. But again, if you build a little bit of momentum, you play well tonight, you can look at your schedule and say, we've played a pretty good brand of basketball over the last month or so. Let's keep this thing rolling. Again, let's go back to that. We believe in ourselves. We know what we're capable of doing. We just have to stick together and fight through this. And, when you come down to sectional time, Mike, I'll tell you, you hear this both at the collegiate level, the pro level. It's no different at the high school level. You've got to limit your turnovers, and you've got to shoot free throws really well, right? All the other things that factor in playing good defense, the things you coach all the time. But I think really for me, what I look at is limiting turnovers, hitting free throws. Those are usually the two kind of tipping point things. If you can win the turnover battle, the Kaiser kid can really handle the ball. They've got a couple of decent guards, I think, that can do that. I have no concept of what kind of brand of basketball Washington plays. I'm assuming they've got some athletes themselves, but I think, if Speedway plays smart, measured basketball, I think they can come away and at least get an opening round win in this sectional. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be super tough. I don't know if it's going to be as hard as what Tri-West has gone up against with that Beech Grove. I think what really intrigues me, to just because it does, I don't understand why they haven't played Indianapolis, Washington throughout the year. Like, I mean,
That's
that you
a
would
great
think
question.
that's like a 5-minute drive.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm looking at Indianapolis, Washington's schedule, it's they played 2 teams from Fort Wayne, and they played all these schools all the way around the state, but not Speedway. And maybe there's a reason for that, right? We know that we're going to be in sectionals, and we don't want to play anybody in our sectional, right? That makes sense, but it's just kind of crazy when you're trying to look at that. When you're looking at Indianapolis, Washington, they have Roosevelt Franklin. He's averaging around 22 points a game, so they're going to be going through him as much as possible. Last year, he averaged 23.3 points a game, so he's just a baller. 6'2". Point guard that can score the basketball. So Speedway is going to have to be able to do something to stop him. And I think you're right. Anytime when you're playing single elimination basketball, it comes down to free throws. Can you get free throws? Can you get to the line? And then can you make them? It's gonna be a hard fought game for Speedway, and I think they'll win. But man, Northview is a different team. I think they're the clear favorite to win that sectional.
Right.
But as you said, any given night, that's why we play the game. A team can come out and win, and a team can have a letdown and lose. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with Speedway and see if they can pull it out. But now we're looking at the 4th place team in the conference as of tonight. I know that's going to change a little bit with wins and losses and who they're playing. But we're going down to Monrovia, who right now is 2-3 in the conference, 13-8 overall. They have a sectional that's pretty tough, Coach. I'm not gonna lie to you here.
Man, no kidding.
The good news is that University had Alan Henderson. Is that his name?
Yeah,
his kid leave. So we don't know where University is going to be at. But they have Ritter and they have Park Tudor. You've mentioned Covenant Christian. All these teams are going to be a tough beat for Monrovia this year. I think they can do it. I think they can win a couple of these games. But it's going to be a struggle fest for Monrovia. I was trying to look and see, Coach, if they played anybody in their sectionals, and nothing's coming up now. They do play Cascade tonight, so that'd be a good test for them. Cascade is 14-6, I believe.
Yeah.
So they're gonna be a pretty tough team for the Bulldogs. And then
Monrovia is 0-2 against sectional opponents. According to Harrell, they lost to Park Tudor by 2 back on December the 23rd, and they lost to Covenant by 5 here back in January. So they are 0-2 against their sectional opponents.
Okay, yeah, and I'm looking at University, and they end up beating Covenant by 6 there. So I was trying to kind of look at those same kind of games that they played. University also lost to Park Tudor. They lost to him by 5. So it should be a good game, and obviously we know Coach Barber knows how to play sectional basketball. I mean, he's won multiple regionals when he was at Danville. He's going to have the kids ready. You can't win 500 games and not know how to coach kids in sectionals. So if there's going to be a team that's going to be well coached and prepared, it's going to be Monrovia.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really well said. And I when I just kind of looked at that, I was like, wow, this is a tough task. This is a pick 'em, right, in this overall sectional. I mean, I could definitely see University working their way through. This Riverside team is 21-1. They're coached, it looks like, by former Tri-West girls coach Justin Bennett. Is that correct? Like he's kind of bounced around from boys and girls. They play more of a not like a easy schedule, but more of like a charter school schedule is what I was trying to think of. They've got a lot of basic charter schools. They got a overtime win against a 4A Perry Meridian team, which isn't awesome, but I mean, it's a good win against a 4A school, being, that you're a 2A school. But yeah, not a super tough schedule there. That might be one that's a little deceiving when you look at that. But I mean, if you've won 21 games throughout the course of the season, you know what you're doing. And that, knowing how to win is so important in this, time frame, as well as sectional play, like you said, where it's one and done. And you can call back to those games that you've had to gut out, win close ones, win in overtime, whatever. So man, that's really going to be a fun one to watch there. And I agree with you. Good luck to Monrovia and to Coach Barber.
Coach, sorry to interrupt you. The Indianapolis Riverside strength of schedule is 352nd. That's not a tough schedule that they have. But Monrovia is 268. So both teams probably need to start scheduling a little bit tougher teams. But when you're looking at John Harrell and you're looking at like the overall ratings of teams, just to kind of go back to where Tri-West is, Burbuff is a 91, Guerin Catholic's 88, Tri-West is 79, right? You're looking at Speedway's a 64, Northview, and we said how good they were. They're ranked 83rd. So then we go down to the Ritter sectional, which is what we were just talking about. University is 78, Ritter 76, Park Tudor 74, Riverside 74, Covenant Christian 71, and then Monrovia sitting there basically 63. So This is probably the closest altogether sectional that we're going to be talking about, which is what you said. It's definitely a pick 'em. So it'll be really interesting to see who ends up coming through this. And, with Coach Barber, I really wouldn't be surprised, if Monrovia wins it. I think it's a long shot, don't get me wrong. But definitely a winnable sectional for them.
For sure. All right. Well, Mike, that'll take us to our last actual matchup, because what we've got here may be somewhat unfortunate. I mean, I guess it has to be considered unfortunate for the HLC, at least, is we've got an HLC matchup in the sectionals, man. How does that happen? Tell me this is random, right? Come on now. How are you going to put the Beech Grove Hornets against the Indian Creek Braves? But unfortunately, that is what we've got in Sectional 28 with the Greenwood Sectional. And, of course, that will include two more HLC teams coming in next season with Shelbyville and Greenwood. But yes, we do have this opening round matchup between the Braves and the Hornets. I'm going to take you through a little bit of the Beech Grove side, and then Mike, I'll kick it over to you to talk a little bit about the Braves here. So again, we talked about the Hornets numerous times throughout the season. Coach Sanders leading his alma mater here. The Hornets currently sitting at 8-15 on the season. And boy, I'll tell you what, they were just snake bit. We chronicled that midway through the season around the holidays. They went and played in a holiday tournament, lost a string of games by about 2 points each, and then went and played in the Marion County tournament, which is just tough as nails. I mean, good grief, you're playing, Marion County schools, that's going to be really tough. And then they just got a tough schedule all around. And I know Coach Sanders would not want to make any kind of excuses. I think I told you guys that in one of my pre-games that I do for the Tri-West Sports Network with our coach, Coach Strine, who's a former college coach. He's coached at multiple different colleges. He's seen a lot of basketball. He's a really great evaluator of talent and ability. He actually confided in us in an interview that he thought Beech Grove was one of the most talented team in the HLC. And that's saying something, right? Top to bottom. And he said, now Triton's got the Seago kid and, they've got a lot of key good role players, but top to bottom, he really likes this roster here. And again, whether it's schedule, injuries, I think the Moore kid was out for a little bit during the season. And quite honestly, we don't get to follow him close enough to know, what's been going on down there. But unfortunately for them, they are on a 4-game losing streak, but again, pretty tough schedule that they've been playing here over the last couple of weeks. And so they end the season with 2 4A schools in Decatur Central and Whiteland, who are both really solid teams to come in and play the Braves. So We know what they're capable of doing. They're averaging 58.7 points per game, only giving up 62. So that kind of explains and showcases that real tight margin of loss that they've had a lot throughout the season, and some of their victories as well. But, again, just another team that we can look at and say, can this team rally around? Can they put all of the hardship behind them throughout the course of the season and say, look, and this is what we would always say, kind of going back. I hate to keep hearkening back on my experience, but it's what I've got. And so, we would always say, look, guys, Indiana's every team's in the playoff, right? Some schools some states you got to qualify. Every team's in the postseason. Every team is 0-0. That's how you have to look at it. Yes, we look at their regular season records, and we've talked a lot about that, and we use it, for strength of schedule and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, you're one loss or one win away from your season being over or moving on. And after this, opening round here, almost half the teams in the state are going to be done playing basketball for the season. Do you want to be one of those teams, right? And you just try to get your kids to believe and buy in that they can keep playing. So I think if you're the Hornets, you kind of, say good riddance to the regular season schedule. Let's hit the reset button. Coach Sanders, coach the boys up, get them ready to go, because you do have a window here. You do have a little bit of an opportunity. This, I think, sectional, Mike, when you look at it, is a little bit more top heavy bottom, right? There's not kind of that, like what we saw in that Ritter sectional. There's a little bit of a clear divide here. Now there's a couple of teams that are right around the middle there, but I think you see more of that top bottom split here. And thankfully for the Hornets, at least, they kind of got a team that struggled a little bit this year in the Indian Creek Braves. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when we're looking at the sectional in Greenwood, as you were saying, Indian Creek, unfortunately, is probably, the least ranked team in there, and then followed by Rushville, and then right there with Beech Grove, and then, like you said, the top four teams are just so good. Indianapolis, Roncalli, Shelbyville, Greenwood, and New Pal. They're clearly going to be the favorites. We're hoping that, Shelbyville ends up beating Roncalli, because I'm tired of Roncalli doing so well. Their girls are in the state championship. Their football team won a state. I think their volleyball won state. So let's go ahead and knock out those Catholics and, get Shelbyville to win there. But before that, like you said, it's going to be Beech Grove and Indian Creek. And Indian Creek is going to lean heavily, like they have all year, on Carter Cooley, the 6'1" guard, who's averaging 16 points a game. What can he do? Can they come back and say, you know what, this has not been our year. We're 3-19, but we have one more game to stick it to our rivals, the Beech Grove, and say, hey, we're still here. We're still going to beat you no matter what, which would be really disappointing for the Beech Grove. Like you said, they can hopefully get a win tonight, then get a win against Beech Grove, and now they're kind of on a streak. But Indian Creek doesn't care about that. They want to beat their conference rival, and they're going to be ready for that. I think when last time they played, Coach, was back in mid-December. Beech Grove kind of handed it to them, 55-82. And I don't know, Coach. I don't know. I don't think there's a way that Indian Creek's going to pull this off. 3-19 is really hard to come back from. I will say that, their coach is in his 16th year. He's really getting close to that 200 win mark. He knows how to coach, and, we're going to be leaning on him really hard to say, give me some years of experience. Because, that's the one thing they have over Coach Sanders and Beech Grove, is that Sanders, this is only his second year, right? Mm-hmm. So can he get the kids ready to play for sectionals? Can you get them, like you were saying, clear your minds, clear your brains? It's a brand new season, right? Mm-hmm. What can we do now? If we lose, we're done. Do you have heart, and can we play? So coaching wise, I think we're gonna lean on Indian Creek, but players, athlete wise, I think this is Beech Grove's game.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that's a really good assessment there. So, Yeah, it ought to be fun. I always love this time of the year. It's one of my favorite times of the year because I love, I've coached basketball for about 12 years, from freshman to JV to varsity assistant. Been a part of high school basketball in the state of Indiana, and there's nothing like it. It's really something. Even with class basketball, it's still that feeling of we have a shot, we have a chance. And again, I emphasize that because again, there are states where you have to qualify for your state tournament. And so just the fact that you get to see those upsets and you get to maybe be a part of something special, right? You fought all year. Basketball is like some of these other sports where you bridge, the calendar year. It feels like it takes forever. You battled through injuries, you play so many games that, it comes down to this, right? And so obviously it's a special time here. And then just to see, like we said, the change in the weather, the spring sports are rolling around, baseball starting to hit. It's awesome. It's awesome, baby, with a capital A, as Dickie V would say. So, all right. Well, anything else that you want to add into the episode tonight, Mike, before we start to wrap this up?
Man, as a Purdue fan, it's hard, but at least we did get a win over our big rivals down in Bloomington. And then they turned around and lost to Northwestern. So, IU's going to have a really hard time making the playoffs, March Madness, and that makes me happy. So let's hope for their losses. And then, but Purdue just lost to Michigan State, and that makes me sad. So you never know what's going to happen with the Boilermakers, man. And, just another thought out there that when I just said that, just reminded me of, Rondell Moore passing away. And it's just, that's super sad for Purdue fans. Young man, like 25 years old, had kind of like an injury-plagued last couple years of college and then into his professional career. It's sad as a 44-year-old man looking, at college kids and, rooting them on and being so happy for them. But I would say like Rondell was one of my favorite players to play for Purdue in such a long time. He was just so electric, so strong, just willed Purdue to wins. Gosh, he was just so fun to watch. Yep. So I know a lot of the Purdue fans out there mourning his loss, and so prayers to his family and his football family and everybody else out there. Sports is great and it brings people together, and unfortunately when things like this happen, community is brought together as well. So
yeah.
So sorry to end the show on a sad note, but I just wanted to make sure people understood that too. We're only here on this planet for a short amount of time. Have fun with it.
Yeah, and it is a great reminder too to mental health is so important. And I know that there are so many resources today, and it's more made aware of knowing the signs and things of that nature. But like you said, you just can never take anything for granted. And sometimes I think we have that kind of like, oh, here he is, he's an NFL player, he's making a lot of money, and his life must be fabulous. And that's not always the case, right? You can't always just kind of look at the exterior. There's a lot of stuff going on, battles that people are fighting. So yeah, just that another last little nod to, make sure you check on your people, and, there's no shame in admitting when you need help too, right? That's one of the things that we talk a lot about. These guys are supposed to be superhuman, right? And they got to put on that facade of they can't show weakness and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, just another reminder to that. And then also too, to kind of, again, just reemphasize and maybe leave us on a little bit of a positive note. Man, we had a blast with Jacob Gummerson of Indian Creek last week, and we are going to try to plan to bring more athletes on. Obviously that takes planning and time, and Jacob was really great about reaching out to us early on, and so we kind of had that in the works for a little bit. We wanted to kind of see how it went. I think everybody felt really good about the format of it, and given the platform and really unique, to be able to hear his perspective on some things. I know I kind of walked away looking at some stuff going like, yeah, that's a really good point that he brought up there. So, to be able to learn from him. And so I think we'll make a more concerted effort to try to reach out to member schools of the HLC and see if there are athletes that would be up for coming on and doing kind of the same thing. So that is something that we will try to mix in and incorporate as well. So looking forward to being able to do that. So, all right. Well, I think that will do it then for this episode of the Hoosier Legends Weekly. We appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Don't forget to reach out to us through all of our social media platforms, whether that be through X or through our email. And we look forward to being with you again next week for another episode of the HLC Weekly.
Concrete jungles got 'em posted beats. My heart sings, I'm with the city streets.